All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're talking about something that is truly on the cutting edge of medicine, using stem cells to fight amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or as most of us know it, ALS. It's a huge topic full of both incredible hope and some really complex science, so we're going to break it all down for you.
For any family facing an ALS diagnosis, it's just an unbelievably tough road. It forces you to look everywhere for answers, for options, for any reason at all to be optimistic. And that really brings us to the central question driving so much of the research today.
And what's so fascinating is that the source of that hope might actually be right inside our own bodies. Scientists are zeroing in on what you could call our body's own built-in repair kit, stem cells. The big idea is, can we use these very cells to slow down, stop, or maybe even reverse the damage that ALS causes?
Okay, so first up, the promise of stem cells. Let's really get into what makes these things tick. What is it about these particular cells that has researchers so convinced they could be a game changer for a disease that's so incredibly destructive? And really, it all boils down to this one massive question. ALS is just brutal. It systematically takes out our motor neurons, the messengers between the brain and our muscles. So the hope here, the big bet, is that maybe, just maybe, we can use the body's own toolkit to rebuild what's been torn down.
So what are they exactly? The best way to think about them is like your body's master construction workers. They're these amazing blank slates that have this incredible power to transform into whatever the body needs. Need a new nerve cell? They could become one. Need a muscle cell over there? They can do that too. It's that flexibility that makes them so powerful. But here's the thing, not all stem cells have the same job description. For ALS research, you can basically split them into two teams. First, you've got the MSCs. Think of them as the nurses or the support crew. They don't usually become new neurons, but they release helpful stuff that protects the neurons you still have and calms down inflammation. Then you've got the builders, the NSCs and iPSCs. Their job is way more direct. They are meant to actually become new nerve cells, replacing the ones that have been lost.
I love this analogy. It makes it so much clearer. Imagine your nervous system is a garden, but ALS has made the soil toxic. It's just a hostile place for the plants, your nerve cells, to live. Stem cells come in and can do a few things. They can be like fertilizer, improving the soil. They can act like a protective shield for the plants that are still hanging on. Or they can literally be new seeds, trying to grow new plants where the old ones have died.
All right, so we know what they are. Now for the really interesting part. The strategy. What's the actual game plan? How do scientists take these cells and turn them into a weapon against ALS?
It's really a three-pronged attack. First, you play defense. You got to protect the motor neurons that are still working. Then you go on offense, trying to replace the ones that are already gone. And third, you have to be a peacekeeper. You've got to calm down the immune system, because with ALS, it often goes haywire and actually makes things worse.
So let's dig into that first part, protection. This is where those nurse cells, the MSCs, are the real MVPs. What they do is pump out these things called neurotrophic factors. Just think of them as supervitamins for your nerves. It's not a cure, right? But it helps the neurons that are left to just hang on a little longer, to survive in that really tough environment that ALS creates.
And you can't overstate how important that is. That extra time, it means everything. This quote from John, a participant in the Neuron trial, just hits so hard. For someone with ALS, a few more months of strength, a few more months of being able to do simple things, that's not a small win. That's a monumental victory.
And that brings up a really important reality here. Right now, this isn't something you can just go and get from your doctor. The cutting edge is happening inside clinical trials. So, let's pull back the curtain a bit. What's it actually like for a patient who gets into one of these trials?
Well, the whole process usually breaks down into four main steps. First, you've got to get the cells. A lot of the time, they come from the patient's own bone marrow. Step 2, those cells get sent off to a high-tech lab where they're grown, purified, and basically prepped for their mission. Step 3 is the big one, delivery, getting those cells back into the patient's body. And then step 4 is all about watching and waiting. Tons of checkups and tests to see if it's working and if it's safe.
Okay, so how do they actually get the cells where they need to go? This is super important. There are two main ways they do it. One is an intrathecal injection. Think of this as the super targeted sniper approach. They put the cells right into the fluid around the spinal cord, getting them as close to the action as possible. The other way is a standard IV infusion. This is more of a systemic, body-wide approach that sends the cells everywhere, which is really good for tackling that inflammation problem we talked about. And look, this isn't just some sci-fi theory.
This is happening right now. Just take a look at some of the major players in the game. You've got Brainstorm with their Neuron therapy in a big Phase 3b trial. CoreStem's therapy is already approved in South Korea. That's huge. And you have others who have completed trials trying to replace neurons. The point is, this is a massive global push.
Okay, so it's easy to get carried away by all this exciting news, right? But we have to stay grounded. It is so important to separate the hope from the hype. So let's take a realistic look at the challenges and the risks involved here.
And let's be perfectly clear about this. Right now, this therapy is still experimental. Full stop.
And that experimental tag comes with some real hurdles. For one, it just doesn't work the same for everyone. We're still figuring out why some people respond and others don't. Then there's access and cost. Getting into a trial is tough, and nobody knows what these therapies will cost if they get approved. And of course, there's safety risks. They're usually mild, but they're there. And this last one is so important. You have to be so careful about scam clinics out there that promise the world. Stick to the real science.
But even with all those caveats, the potential here is just profound. This quote from Maria, who was in a Mayo Clinic trial, really says it all. It gave me time to make memories. See, maybe the immediate goal isn't a cure. Maybe it's about time, and you just can't put a price on that.
So, what's next? Where does this all go from here? Let's look into the crystal ball a little bit and see what the future might hold for these treatments.
And the momentum is undeniable. Right now, in 2025, we're seeing these huge late-stage trials get underway. Fast forward to 2028, that could be the year we see the first FDA-approved stem cell therapy for ALS. Think about that. And by 2030, the game changes again as we start seeing these amazing combination therapies come into play.
And what kind of combinations are we talking about? We're talking about mind-blowing stuff, like using CRISPR gene editing to literally fix the broken gene in the cells before they're put back in the body, or using AI to perfectly match the right patient with the right treatment. We're even using robotic surgery to deliver these cells with pinpoint accuracy. This is the future, and it's happening fast.
And you know what's driving a lot of this? Follow the money. The market for this is projected to be $10 billion by 2030. Now, that's not just some number on a spreadsheet. That's a massive signal that serious investment, serious brain power, and serious resources are flooding into this space to find a solution.
So, that leaves us with this big question. Could a cure really be built, one single cell at a time? Look, a full-on cure is still the ultimate finish line. But the progress we're seeing today isn't just hope, it's tangible. It's this slow, incredibly detailed work of saving one neuron here, replacing one cell there, all to buy one more day. The question has changed. It's not if we can fight ALS this way anymore. It's how fast can we get there? How quickly can we build a future where this disease is no longer a death sentence, but a manageable condition?